Hey, welcome back everyone. This is Uncle Frank, and I am not a financial advisor, nor is any of the content to be construed as financial advice. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, let's kick this one off with the only thing Seeking Alpha is good for, and that's the Wall Street breakfast. The S&P 500 on Friday rebounded from its worst week of the year to post its best week of the year. It was also the first time since June of 2022 that the benchmark index fell at least 4% in one week and then rallied more than 4% the next. Last week's sell-off had been driven by concerns over economic growth after a slew of soft data on the labor market and historical September weakness. This week, the narrative reversed after traders received inflation data that cemented expectations of a Fed Reserve interest rate cut next Wednesday. The only question now is, what size cut are we getting for the week? The S&P 500 surged 4%, while the Nasdaq jumped 6% and the Dow climbed 2.6%. Okay, so all those events are in the books, guys. GME earnings, CPI, PPI. Now, let's try to figure out what's coming next. Before we begin our analysis, let's review the potential black or white swans out there. Subscribers to this channel may recognize this table. It's my list of potential swans, but it's customized for people that trade our favorite stocks and cryptos: AMC, GME, Archer, the VIX, GUT, Precious Metals, and XRP. Under the geopolitical heading, we have Russia-Ukraine, China-Taiwan, Israel and the conflict in Gaza, North Korea is always a wild card, and the 2024 election itself could be a black or white swan. So what do I mean by geopolitical swans? Well, here's the thing. If Russia and Ukraine decide to go to the peace talks, that could turn into a white swan. But if China attacks Taiwan, that obviously could become a black swan very quickly. Now, under systemic or financial threats, we still have the U.S. credit card debt crisis. We still have the commercial real estate debt crisis. We still have unrealized losses at U.S. banks and the Fed, and nearly 300 U.S. banks are at an elevated risk of failure. We have the de-dollarization trend, a threat from BRICS. We have the $35 trillion U.S. debt spiral and the derivative tsunami. Ryan Cohen could make an announcement about the future of GameStop suddenly, or Roaring Kitty could post another tweet. There are possible appeals originating from the SEC versus Ripple case, or we could see a sudden approval of Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD, or maybe the approval of some new XRP ETFs. Elon Musk could suddenly debut his payment platform system on X. We could get rate cuts from the Fed, but they could also be delayed. And will it be a quarter point or a half a point this week? Hidden hedge fund over leverage is always a threat out there. In other words, securities sold yet not purchased, and potentially billions of unreconciled synthetic shares. These are all the potential swans I see, and they could land at any moment. 512.9 billion in unrealized losses hit U.S. banks as number of problem banks rises to 66, according to the FDIC. The number of U.S. banks with major issues is on the rise, according to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. The agency's second quarter 2024 quarterly banking profile shows the number of lenders on its problem bank list rose quarter on quarter from 63 to 66. I would like to add this is the fifth consecutive quarterly increase of banks rated 4 or 5 on the CAMELS rating system since the second quarter of 2023. A rating of 4 on the CAMELS system indicates a bank is suffering from financial, operational, or managerial issues that could reasonably threaten viability if unresolved, while a rating of 5 indicates a bank is critically deficient and requires immediate remedial attention. Okay, let's populate the events calendar and prepare for the coming weeks. We are now only 3 days to the second day of the September Fed meeting, where we currently expect to get our first rate cut. But before that, on Tuesday, September 17th, 8:30, U.S. retail sales. Wednesday, September 18th, at 2 p.m., we will get the FOMC interest rate decision, immediately followed by Fed Chair Jay Powell's press conference at 2:30. Thursday, September 19th, initial jobless claims at 8:30, but also this week, Friday, September 20th, is the third quadruple witching date of the year. Friday, December 20th will be the last one. Put that on your calendar. Monday, September 23rd, 9:45 a.m., S&P Flash, U.S. Services and Manufacturing PMI. Fast forward to Thursday, September 26th, 8:30, initial jobless claims again, but then GDP. Friday, September 29th, 8:30 a.m., personal income and spending, and then PCE, the Fed's favorite. And if this one comes in hot, that could certainly delay any subsequent cuts, so the whole world will be watching that one. September 30th marks the end of the third quarter, a vital date for AMC fans. While it hasn't been announced, I currently forecast AMC third Q 2024 earnings to be released around November 13th. Zax thinks we're going to lose 9 cents a share. I think we're going to post a profit. Not investment advice or advisor. Back on August 8th, Judge Torres announced the fine against Ripple XRP. So the SEC has 60 days from there to appeal. So we can estimate that deadline to be around October 7th, or approximately 22 days from now. There is no Fed meeting scheduled for October, so we may have to wait until November for the second cut if we get another one. Now, October 22nd till the 24th is the BRICS Summit. Please understand, we could get some earth-shattering and market-roiling headlines out of this conference, and this will be right before the election. This could profoundly affect crypto, precious metals, and even the U.S. bond and stock markets. I expect Archer Aviation's next earnings release to land around November 7th to 11th. There are only 51 days to the November 5th election. Did you know the next Fed meeting is scheduled for November 6th and 7th, immediately following the election? I wonder what they're trying to tell us with that. GameStop's next earnings date is unconfirmed for Wednesday, December 12th after market hours. By the way, December 17th and 18th will be the last FOMC meeting of the year. We are now 127 days from inaugurating a new president. That's January 20th, which means if Trump is elected, Gary Gensler is scheduled to be fired the following day. Guys, we've been talking about this long-awaited rate cut for months now, so let's do one more slide on it, and then we'll see what happens on Wednesday and discuss the market's reactions. Headline, what to expect from Wednesday's pivotal Fed Reserve meeting. The Fed Reserve is widely expected to cut its benchmark interest rate when it meets Wednesday. The rate influences borrowing costs for mortgages, credit cards, and car loans, and has been kept at a 2-decade high for more than a year to discourage spending and subdue inflation. With inflation having fallen close to pre-pandemic levels and the job market weakening, the Fed is at a turning point, preparing to cut rates for the first time in more than 4 years. Although Fed officials have signaled rate cuts are all but inevitable, the size of the first cut is up in the air. The Fed Reserve is poised to deliver its first interest rate cut since 2020 next week, a move that consumers, businesses, and investors alike have been eagerly awaiting. We'll see what happens. Now, I have one comment about the triple or quadruple witching day coming up this Friday from quantitative analyst Rocky White. Headline, historic market performance during triple witching weeks. The third Friday of March, June, September, and December are triple witching Fridays. According to Rocky's table, Friday has the lowest standard deviation of returns. Poor stock returns are typically accompanied by higher volatility, but in the case of triple witching days since 2021, the returns have been consistently bad with little deviation. Take it for what it's worth, people. There's not much to watch on the earnings front this week, but every analyst on Wall Street will keep an eye on FedEx Thursday after the bell, especially a day after the potential rate cut and a day before quadruple witching. Now check out this article from the Daily Hodl. Fundstrat's Tom Lee forecast multi-week market rally, says investors can be pretty confident over next year. Fundstrat's Tom Lee is anticipating several weeks of good performance for the stock market following this week's FOMC meeting. In an interview on CNBC, Lee says that while investors are cautious about markets due to uncertainty surrounding the upcoming U.S. election, economic data is nonetheless leaning in favor of risk assets. We shall see. All right, let's start with AMC. Is AMC Entertainment the worst communication services stock to buy, according to short sellers? All right, I wasn't aware my company was part of the CSP sector, or communication service providers. Maybe we're offering popcorn buckets with 5G and Bluetooth next. I also don't ever remember consulting with short sellers to see which stocks they don't want me to buy. Only AMC and GameStop can get headlines like this. On a happier note, AMC Theaters partners with DoorDash for delivery. The company expects deal to be nationwide by spring of 2025, expanding current Uber Eats alliance. And who's ready for this tomorrow? Former President Donald Trump is announcing the launch date of World Liberty Financial, his new decentralized finance crypto project. In a new video update posted on the social media platform X, the Republican presidential nominee says that his DeFi platform, which he previously stated is for helping those disenfranchised by the traditional banking system, will launch on Monday, September 16th. And from Investors Business Daily, join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. on September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. Trump said in a video on X Thursday night, "We are embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind." The event is called Donald Trump State of Crypto Address and will broadcast live from Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Meanwhile, the Trump family has teased the upcoming project, backed by his sons Eric and Donald Jr., over the past few months. Quote, "We are about to shake up the crypto world with something huge. Decentralized finance is the future. Don't get left behind," Donald Jr. posted on August 7th. Wow, let me be the first to congratulate CNK or Cinemark on their performance from last weekend. Cinemark celebrates its all-time best September domestic box office weekend, driven by Beetlejuice. And from Dallas Innovates, The Last Word, Cinemark CEO on company's best ever September box office weekend. I guess AMC was closed. I didn't hear anything from AMC's investor relations department or our CEO. He may have been preoccupied texting nude images of himself to strangers on his phone for $500,000 a week. John Merriweather, our head of investor relations, sure has been busy since Adam promoted him to VP of Capital Markets. We could put Joe Biden in charge of our IR department and get the same exact results. But as long as Merriweather toes the line and keeps his mouth shut, I'm sure the money will continue to tumble in for him. Moving along to GameStop, who always gets a fair shake in the press, am I right? GameStop prepares to shutter even more stores. after a disappointing second quarter. Guys, I was disappointed too, but net income of $14.8 million is still better than a loss of $2.8 million. I just think it's fair to mention it, be balanced. But of course, Cramer piled on. Jim Cramer agrees GameStop should consider operating as a bank and labels the meme stock as massively overvalued SPAC. But my favorite came from the Financial Times. GameStop is just playing with its fans now. So since you don't know Ryan Cohen's plans for the company, the only conclusion you can come to is he's playing with his shareholders. All right, let's go to the article. Companies should raise funds at good rates when they can get them. That's common sense. But adding $450 million plus to a $4 billion hoard without detailing plans for the cash, that's plain cheeky. Now, I would agree to some degree. I think Ryan should have given us some more, forward-looking details about what his plans are, but maybe he couldn't. Investors might finally have had enough. Shares in GameStop fell 12% on the share sale this week, having risen the last two times the retailers tapped shareholders for funds that it had no clear plans for. Okay, I disagree with that statement. GME has no clear plans that it has disclosed yet. There's a difference. In my opinion, GameStop has a solid but much smaller legacy business now, but this play has become all about a bet on Ryan Cohen, what he plans to do with the $4 billion war chest. His last time out, he accomplished Chewy, and that's more than Jim Cramer has ever accomplished as an entrepreneur. While Cramer insists it's an overvalued SPAC, why would he leave out that GME has better valuation metrics than the entire NASDAQ 100, which makes it a pretty dangerous stock play in my opinion. I'll tell you what would make me tune in and listen to this clown again. Jim, do a show where you disclose who asked you to comment negatively on GameStop. I'll tune in to hear that. Instead of comparing GameStop to Archegos, do an entire series on illegal naked shorting, spoofing and layering by your alma mater, Goldman Sachs. Why did Goldman mismark 60 million short orders as longs, Jimmy Chill? Could you explain that to us? Do you have the courage to answer that question, or are you a feeble old coward now? Discuss misusing dark pools and algorithms. Teach us all about what happens to failures to deliver. And why not an update on the Andrew Left case? Explain to us in detail what he did wrong, and then I'll watch your shitty show again. Well, I have no choice. I have to do a slide and give a shout out to my gold bugs and all my precious metals enthusiasts, especially Don Pantaleo and the Winged Wolf who called 2600 on the shiny metal. From the headlines, prospect of steeper Fed cuts boosts stocks, drives record gold prices. And from Goldman Sachs, gold prices forecast to climb to record high. CNBC, gold skyrockets as stars align for Fed rate cuts. From Fortune, current price of gold as of September 13th reaches an all-time high. I've got 2606.20. Not bad, gentlemen. And then CBS News, will gold's price drop as inflation cools? Stay tuned. As a hat tip to my gold bugs, I will remind you that the annual Gold Forum Americas for 2024 started September 15th and will continue to the 18th. I don't know how you could be a real gold bug and not be in attendance in Colorado Springs. Y'all must be slipping. Gold Forum Americas is the world's oldest and largest gathering of precious commodity equities matched with their investors. The invitation-only 36th Annual Gold Forum convenes at the remarkable Broadmoor Resort Hotel and will be attended by the world's leading specialist precious metal investors and generalist institutional investors, private equity, and hedge funds. Buy and sell side analysts from around the world make up the balance of the participants. And speaking of Archegos, what happened to Billy Wang? Archegos founder Bill Wang found guilty in multi-billion-dollar fraud trial. Well, sentencing was set for October 28th if you'd like to add that to your calendar. Billy is currently free on bail, and it's my hope that he will now start exposing Wall Street for what it really is and cut a deal, since he's facing 20 years. Sadly, it's my belief he will get a sentence reduction if he agrees to keep his mouth shut. Stay tuned. I warned you guys on the calendar slide. This year's BRICS conference in Russia will be on October 22nd to 24th, and we could get some explosive headlines just before the November election. Be ready for anything. From Reuters, Iran's president to attend BRICS summit in Russia. Will Turkey's bid to join BRICS speed up EU accession? And from AP, China's Xi Jinping to visit Russia next month for the BRICS summit. Ripple XRP has had some interesting headlines recently. Starting with September 12th, XRP spikes 8% as Grayscale launches XRP Trust in the US. The closed-end fund will offer investors exposure to XRP tokens. And then the 13th, expert says Grayscale XRP Trust hints at potential settlement of SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. And then the 14th, Ripple XRP price forecast, Grayscale investment triggers $628 million buy signal. And then Sunday the 15th, XRP relisting on Robinhood could fuel double-digit price rally, push XRP to 66. It did get up to 59.85, I believe. At the time of this recording, I've got 0.5844. Followers of this channel know my number one pick for 2025 is Archer Aviation. Now, I'll be the first to admit there are a lot of these electric contraptions flying around out there, like the image on your left. But Uncle Frank picked the same one the United States Air Force did on your right, the Midnight. That's right, a $1 billion startup has a $6 billion order book almost overnight, and it trades in the mid-threes. They plan to finish their manufacturing facility in Georgia this year, and I'm just waiting for the next headline to drop. This is not investment advice. I am not an investment advisor. I will never tell you to buy, sell, or hold any securities or cryptocurrency. Listen, guys, whenever the hedgies get completely over their skis on a trade, I try to pay attention. They can reveal clues about the economy and maybe even trade setups. From Bloomberg, hedge funds have never been this bearish on Brent crude before. Hedge funds turned net bearish on Brent crude for the first time on record as concerns about an oversupply of oil hammer futures prices. Money managers' short positions outnumbered long bets by 12,680 lots in the week ending September 10th. The first time that's happened in ICE Futures Europe data going back to January of 2011. Hedge funds remain net bullish on WTI, though that position was the smallest since February. Investors are increasingly concerned about an oversupply of crude next year as non-OPEC countries boost output and demand from China and the U.S., the world's top oil consumers, appears to be faltering. Do you want to trade against the hedgies? Do you think they may be wrong? If you want to trade this, take a look at the U.S. Brent Oil Fund ETF, or BNO. That's the weekly chart on your screen, and I'm watching levels 2640, 25, and 2360 for a possible entry point. Why do I trade commodity ETFs, you ask? Because commodities don't declare bankruptcy and don't have an Adam Aron around to assist the short sellers. I'd like to catch a bottom here because when this thing turns around, it has nice runs, nice rallies. See the white arrows? That's 11 green weekly arrows out of 14 on just that one move. From Seeking Alpha last week is Kohl's setting up for a monster short squeeze. Kohl's share price has declined from $50 to $20 over the past 3 years due to a failed acquisition and a competitive retail environment. Short sellers have heavily targeted Kohl's in 2024, with short interest ballooning to 36% of diluted shares, betting on the negative effects of a consumer spending slowdown. If Kohl's beats lowered expectations in 2025, a massive short squeeze could propel the stock towards $40 quite easily. A 10% dividend and 30% FCF yield are also noteworthy. Despite recession risks, Kohl's current A-plus valuation and potential for a short squeeze present a compelling investment opportunity for outside gains, not investment advice or advisors. KSS also made it onto BNK's list of noteworthy Friday option activity if you're interested in reading up on it. And here's an early Happy New Year from the Uncle Frank Finance Channel. Debt ceiling drama brewing for last days of Congress. Legislation signed in 2023 averted economic catastrophe, but Congress must soon face the issue again. No matter the electoral outcomes of November, lawmakers will likely face an urgent economic crisis to start the new year. Unless the current Congress passes legislation to allow the federal government to borrow more money to pay its debts, and President Joe Biden signs that bill into law before he leaves office, the next Congress will be forced to confront the debt ceiling, a limit on how much the U.S. can borrow to make good on its financial obligations. Legislation signed into law in June of 2023 suspended the debt limit until only January 2nd, 2025. Congress risks plunging the domestic and global economies into turmoil if it does not reach agreement to raise the debt ceiling, a legislative barrier in the U.S. implemented in an attempt to rein in the national debt. Hasn't worked very well so far. Hey, I want to thank you for watching, and please remember to hit the like button after this slide if you enjoyed the presentation. Subscribe to the channel and set the alert so you're notified when I have new information to share. See you at the bell.